F. Gary Gray, you directed Straight Outta Compton, which tells the story of the rise of the groundbreaking hip-hop group NWA. And you had a background yourself in directing music videos before you started directing films. So did that help in telling a story like this that's driven so much by the music?
Definitely. Music videos help me definitely kind of understand what life is like in the world of music, and also in dealing with artists from the music industry. And that's why I met Ice Cube. And so there was a lot of things that I drew on from my experiences in music videos that helped me, not only from the shooting, the personalities, the drama, some of the things that, just having to shoot quick, just a lot of things that I use from that experience, some of the technical stuff as well. I definitely drew on some of that experience to help make Straight Outta Compton.
And having had experience with music and artists like Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, you've directed music videos for both of them. You do have sort of an insider's eye view of the music industry that you spend a lot of time in this film sort of exploring. Did that help sort of understanding that world right from the get-go?
Yeah, it did. My relationship with Ice Cube and Dre go back over 20 years, and I kind of started off with Cube and a little bit with Dre, and it definitely helped because Dre specifically, he's a very, very private guy. You don't read a lot about him. You don't see a lot of his personal life, and I think that the movie would have been completely different if we didn't have this input. And I think it helped that I could give him a call and say, hey, I'm making this movie, and I need your help. And that's what happened. He wasn't involved initially. It was just Ice Cube and Matt Alvarez, and basically he wasn't involved. And I read the draft, and it just seemed incomplete without his input. And then with Cube, I actually directed my very first movie, Friday. So I was 24 years old, and it was just kind of like the beginning of both of our careers in film. And it's just all come full circle, but it was definitely helpful to have a relationship with both of those guys, because I was able to get details from them that maybe you wouldn't get otherwise. It's easy to Google NWA or Ice Cube and Dr. Dre and get kind of the basics and the general things that most people have access to, but really digging in and asking some of the hard questions, I think I'm probably one of the only guys who could do that. One of only a couple guys who could do that.
Capturing the creative process of making music can be challenging to do in a movie. So what was it like shooting the recording studio scenes and then a lot of the live performance scenes?
A lot of that stuff was actually fun. At first I was a little nervous because it's hard to get a cast that can, deliver a great performance that's unknown. They don't have a ton of experience. And then to couple that with performing on stage and being believable and authentic, that's something that's very hard to combine, very hard to find. But once I realized I picked the right guys, and Corey and Jason and of course Shay and the guys, and once I saw them rehearse, I knew, this is going to be great. It was still a little nerve-wracking until I shot the first scene in Skateland. But once we shot, I think it was Dope Man, in Skateland at the skating rink, I knew, okay, this is going to be fun. And it ultimately was fun. Those guys are big hams. They love it. They love the attention. They love having like hundreds of people, thousands of people out in the audience kind of screaming the music. And they tied into the audience and connected with the audience, not unlike NWA did back in the day, and not unlike a rock group. And so that part of it actually was fun once I realized they were the right guys to do it.
Yeah, and and that casting was fairly serendipitous with OShea Jackson Jr. Ice Cube's son playing him in this film, and of course having directed Ice Cube in your very first film 20 years ago, Friday. What was it like now to direct his son now that he's around the same age that you were when you directed Friday?
That is absolutely true. I think they refer to Back to the Future a lot when they reference Shay playing Ice Cube, playing the dad, playing the son, and all that type of stuff. There's a little bit of the Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox stuff going on, because it's great to have worked with Cube in his early 20s and now working with his son in his early 20s. Both are extremely talented. It wasn't guaranteed at first because we weren't sure what he could do. It's his first movie, and I think he got a part to give a world-class performance. And for me, it goes beyond just a director and an actor. I'm proud of him, because I met him as a kid, and to see him kind of develop and just deliver something like this, I just think he's a special kid, special guy.
There's so much ground to cover in this film overall in terms of the lives of Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, and Eazy-E, and the music industry, and the climate of police violence that the film also covers. What was the process of streamlining all that history into a story for the film?
It was hard. It was extremely hard. When you have 5 guys over the course of 10 years, to try to fit it in, it was really hard. But my rule is just stick to the narrative. And this movie is about NWA, rise and fall of the group. And there were so many things that I wanted to put in the movie that I couldn't. There was so many things that we shot that we had to cut out of the movie. Although some of that stuff's going back in the director's cut, which is coming out in January. But it was really, really hard, man. I can think of a few moments that I would have loved to put in the movie that were dramatic, that, definitely related to the story, but just didn't make it.
Can you give us any idea of some of the things that you would have loved or that we might see in the director's?
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, in that time, Dre was shot. And I believe MC Ren got shot as well. One of the biggest moments in the movie is Ice Cube's No Vaseline sequence. It's a diss track, and a lot of times we get major response from the audience from that. But Dre also made a diss track. Dre did, and Eazy made a diss track as well. And those were 2 great songs that didn't make it in the movie, and I would have loved for the music and for some of the drama, but again, it would have been a 4-hour movie, and it just didn't fit into the narrative. It would have been kind of it's kind of a one-off or somewhat non sequitur. So we just didn't put it in. And there are people who kind of complain about some of the things that didn't make it in, but trust me, there's so many things that we could have put in that would have felt right, but it just wouldn't have made sense.
The film takes place around 25 years ago, but sadly, a lot of the backdrop of the police violence against people of color that you depict in the film hasn't really changed much. That it seems, NWA could have written some of these songs literally yesterday. What are your thoughts on how the film resonates now on that level?
Well, I'm hoping that it helps with just pushing for real change. I was listening to Marvin Gaye yesterday, and I was listening to his song, "Make Me Wanna Holler," and he talks about police brutality. I think the line is, "Don't punish me with brutality," and he was talking about that in the 70s. And so NWA's "Fuck the Police" song is a version of that in the next decade. And so it seems like the more things change, the more they stay the same. But, we didn't make this specifically for that. It just happens to be in the movie. But if this can help change the culture and put pressure on our political leaders, our leaders in law enforcement to do the right thing, then I would be happy about that. That would really make me happy.
So you're making this film, you had the input of Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, who were producers, and of course, who lived these experiences. But of course, the other major component of the film, Eazy-E, he's not around anymore because he died of AIDS, unfortunately, in 1995. What was the challenge of approaching his part of the story, since he's the one central character, or the one central part of this story who isn't around to speak for himself?
Well, he was one of the hardest roles to cast because he went through the most. He was a drug dealer. He was a street tough. He was associated with the street life. And a lot of times when you find guys in the arts who have a ton of experience, they didn't, a lot of these guys don't, really didn't put a lot of time into, if you put time in the arts, you didn't put that same time into the streets. And so, what I found was a gap in authenticity. So we were really lucky to find Jason Mitchell, who has this raw talent, and he has a history in the streets, and he decided to change his life. And that's the reason why his performance is great. I was really nervous about the Eazy-E role because he's such a very specific personality. It was a lot to cover, and in order to deliver a performance like that, you have to cover the full range of emotions, from happiness to sad, and contracting the illness, and kind of working your way through those things, and the relationships within the movie, and the brotherhood theme, and the father-son theme, and all the things that we had to cover. Was very, very tough. Eazy was different than what most people expected, and very fearless as well. So it was a big challenge, but I was lucky to find Jason, for sure.
The film is a pretty gritty R-rated drama about a controversial group of musicians, but it ended up being a very big hit, a box office hit, big mainstream box office hit, made over $200 million worldwide. Did you expect it to strike the chord with the public the way it did?
We knew the movie was special. We didn't know that it would. We didn't know we experienced this level of success. We just followed our hearts, man, and that's the funny part about it. You hear those stories all the time where people say, well, just follow your heart and success will come. And I guess this project is living proof of that, because we didn't make it for awards. We didn't make it for anyone other than, I'll just say this. We knew that it would have a universal appeal. We just didn't know if everybody would come out to see it, because it is a hard R, and it is, NWA, they're a controversial group. But I'm glad people showed up. The world showed up, and we were true to the story. We were true to the tone. We were true to what they were about, and it is controversial. The music was controversial, and I think people appreciated that, and we're just happy people got it. Because there is a version of this movie maybe being kind of marginalized or kind of put in a certain category, and Universal handled it perfectly. They led Donna Langley, Jeff Shell, Ron Meyer, all those guys treated this film like a mainstream film. I remember driving down Highland Boulevard, and we saw the poster, and it was bigger than Mission Impossible, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not something we expected. And they supported us 1,000%, even through controversies. And I think that the movie's really good. I think that our partners did a great job as well. So I think it's really a combination of everything that made this movie successful.
In general, seeing films with black directors and predominantly black casts is still more of a rarity in the industry than it probably should be. Do you think with the success of movies like this one, and even TV shows like Empire and How to Get Away with Murder and others like that, that we'll finally start to see Hollywood diversify more, both in front of and behind the camera?
Well, it looks like it's happening, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It looks like it's happening. It looks like we're going in the right direction. You know, I'm happy for the guys over at Empire. I'm happy for Viola. I think that based on the phone calls and some of the meetings that I'm taking, that there does seem like it's starting to open up. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I think it's going to, I think it's a good thing. We keep hearing a lot about what's coming. And so we'll see over the next few years if it's going to stick. And I think it will, actually.
Now, coming up, you'll be directing the eighth film in the Fast and the Furious franchise, and you've directed action movies before, but you know this seems like a whole different animal. What were your thoughts? What are your thoughts jumping into like this big billion-dollar franchise like that?
Oh man, I'm about to have some fun. I'm about to have some fun. I used to play with a big box of Legos, a suitcase full of Legos when I was a kid, and I would dump them out on the floor. And I would build all these different cars and airplanes and things like that. And so I'm really looking forward to just having some fun. It's like having a big box of toys and going out there and really enjoying myself. And we've already started. I was in Cuba a couple of days ago scouting, and hopefully we're able to shoot in Cuba and Iceland and a few places around the world. So this is just, you know, I was able to wear my journalist hat and my historian hat for Outta Compton, and now I'm able to play like a, you know, a kid again. And the accounting job was a smaller version of that, and Fast is going to be, you know, a larger version of that. And, you know, I've worked with these guys before. I've worked with Vin, I've worked with The Rock and Jason Statham, and I know Tyrese and Ludacris and those guys. So it's about to, you know, we're about to have some fun.
And even with all the film work that you've done of late, and you've had a lot of success in that in recent years, you've still directed, you know, music videos in the last 10 or 15 years. Do you think you'll always keep going back to making videos?
You know, I don't know. It just depends. It's all about, you know, the artist. It's all about the creativity. If it's something that speaks to me, I'll do whatever speaks to me. You know, it's all about expression and truthful expression. You know, I loved working with Jay-Z. I had fun working with Outkast. And if I'm able to express myself, who knows, definitely.
Well, I want to congratulate you again on Straight Outta Compton and on Fast and the Furious, which I'm sure is going to keep you very busy in the coming couple of years.
A little busy.
Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Okay, thank you, bro.